why don't you tell me first a little bit about yourself and how you got into midwifery?
Yeah, so I got into midwifery from the experience of my births. My first birth was a hospital birth. Very standard, no complications, but ended up on the induction train. I went to 42 weeks and everything was going fine, but was just told that I needed to have a baby for no other reason than being 42 weeks. Um, and so had an induction, Pitocin epidural, the whole 9 yards. Not really anything um, traumatic about my birth, but it was just, I didn't like feeling out of control. I felt like everything was being done to me and I wasn't given informed consent. I wasn't being educated about what was happening, or things that I could do, to help, my birth go better. And then, so with my second, I ended up hiring a midwife and having a home birth. Um, and just the drastic differences between the two, I was in shock of like, what in the world? Like, why aren't people being told about, all the different options and the care and all the different things that could be, better. And so from there, I started teaching childbirth education. I got certified. And so I was teaching people how to advocate for their births, mostly in the hospital setting, just how to do it better and get the birth that they wanted. And from there, my students started asking me to doula at their births. And so that kind of morphed into this, childbirth education slash doula practice. Um, and I was doing that for quite some time, when I ended up as a doula at a home birth. And the midwife there was there without an assistant. And uh, an event occurred during the birth where she needed me to step out of the doula role and step into an assistant role. And from that birth, that midwife was like, "Hey, you should, figure out how to become a licensed assistant and assist me, full time through all my births." Um, and so I did, and did that for quite a while. And finally, she was like, "You're actually pretty good at this. You could just turn all these numbers in and get licensed and become a midwife." And so that's how I ended up where I am.
That's awesome. About how long was that journey from like birth education through becoming a midwife?
Um, the entire journey was about 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how long ago did you become a licensed midwife?
So I've been licensed 3 years now.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, you were an assistant at my first
Yeah.
home birth, and then
Yeah.
you were the midwife for my last birth, which unfortunately had to go to the hospital, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Um, Perfect. Can you kind of walk me through like a typical home birth from the initial consultation to postpartum follow-up and what that looks like?
Yeah, so from the initial consultation, we sit down with the family and ask and answer all sorts of questions, both on our end and the family's end. We deep dive into what home birth looks like and how we may or may not be a good fit for your family. Home birth is definitely not for everyone, and every midwife doesn't mesh well with every person. And so it's definitely important to take that time to have a consult and ask questions and feel if you feel safe with the midwife, personality wise. Birth is a very intimate experience. And so you want to make sure that all of your care team fits well with you and your family. Um, and then after that consult, if you decide to go ahead and move forward with us, then we see you prenatally, just like an OB. So we see you every 4 weeks until 28 weeks, every 2 weeks until 36 weeks. And then at 36 weeks, we come to your house and we do a home visit and we talk about kind of a dry run of what the birth will look like, if you're going to have the pool, if not, where you think you might be birthing, um, if there's any special instructions for us getting into your house, if it happens to be in the middle of the night. Do you have animals? Do you have a gate? Do you have horses? All the whole round of things that we encounter. Um, and also leaving room for us to park so that we can get in and out quickly if we need to. And then after 36 weeks, you return back to us at the office and see us weekly until the birth. At the birth, we come to your house and set up. Ideally, we're there about an hour or two before baby arrives. And during your labor, you're in communication with us during the entire time, letting us know what's going on. We have a live stream contraction app that streams your contractions to us. And so we are watching them from home, constantly, texting back and forth. How are you coping? What are you doing? Here are some ideas. Um, what's going on, different things like that. And when you're ready for us to come, then we come. Sometimes that's hours before the birth, and sometimes that's right when baby's coming, depending on how quickly you're letting us know. But ideally, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours before baby. Um, when we arrive, we bring all our medication. We are licensed midwives, which means we are licensed by the state of California, which means we can provide you all the life-saving medication that you would get in the hospital. So we are bringing things for hemorrhaging, we're bringing oxygen, resuscitation equipment for baby, that type of thing with us. And so we're getting all of that set up, getting ready for the delivery. Once baby arrives, then baby goes directly skin to skin on you. And everything is a very calm process. We wait for the placenta to be born. After the placenta is born, then we cut the cord. We typically don't cut until after the placenta's out. If baby is needing any kind of attention, everything we're doing is on you. And so baby is on you if we're doing resuscitation. If that's not working, then we're just right next to you. We never take baby away, go into another room, nothing like that. Um, then once all of the birth process is finished, then we're going to be checking for tears, and getting everything cleaned up, getting you into bed, getting baby snuggled in next to you. And then we work on cleaning up the house, so that it doesn't look like you had a baby there. And then we do a complete newborn exam on the baby. We are licensed to act as baby's pediatrician during the first 6 weeks. And so we're doing a full newborn workup, checking oxygen levels, heart rate, making sure all their parts are in the right spot and working correctly. Then once you and baby are stable and everyone feels ready to go to bed, then we pack up our stuff and leave. We're typically there after the birth, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. And then we're checking in, every couple hours, when you're awake. And then we return to your house around 24 hours later after the birth, to do another full check on you and baby. And then again at the somewhere between 36 and 72-hour mark. And then as long as baby and mom are doing great, then you guys return back to us at the office at 1 week. And then everybody's postpartum experience looks different after that point. Some people are seeing us weekly, especially if they're not seeing a pediatrician. So then we're doing weight checks and doing breastfeeding checks. We're also checking in mentally, how you're doing postpartum, struggling with postpartum depression, that types of things. We can do like herbal remedies and things if we're, struggling a bit there. And so sometimes that looks like we're seeing you weekly for 6 weeks, sometimes every 2 weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks. It just really depends on what the family needs. Yeah.
That was very informative. I love that. Okay. Um, and how do you work with families to create a birth plan that's specific to their needs and preferences?
Yeah. So, because we're working directly with you during the entire 9 months, um, the entire birth plan is tailored based on, our relationship. Typically, what's happening currently in our OB setting here in the Central Valley is that you're seeing your nurse practitioner, you're seeing a random person in the office, you're rarely seeing your OB, and you're rarely seeing the same person more than once. And so during that 9 months, we're, seeing you every single time and building that relationship and talking through, what you don't want, what you do want, what you want your birth to look like, so that by the time your birth happens, um, the birth plan isn't really necessary because we've been planning it for the entire time.
Mhm. Cool. Can you discuss any unique or new innovative techniques that you use during labor and delivery to ensure a safe and comfortable experience for mom and baby?
My favorite thing is the birth tub. Um, the experience of having a water birth has been shown to be just as effective as an epidural. So that's really cool. So we definitely use that often. We also have a birth swing that hooks onto the back of a door, and you can use it in a variety of ways. You can sit in it, you can kind of lean in it, you can use it as a supported squat when you're pushing. And so that's really a cool tool also. We also have a birth stool that can be sat on. It looks kind of like a toilet. It's got like a hole cut out so you can sit and push. So those are like really nice pain management techniques that we use. As far as safety, we're definitely implementing, like, we listen to baby every 20 minutes during active labor and then every 5 minutes during pushing, and following, kind of what the guidelines are on that, to ensure, mom and baby are doing well.
Cool. And then this new live streaming contraction app, you didn't have that when I was in labor. That's
Yes.
new this
Yeah,
year.
it's really cool. So it's just an app, and that the family has. Anyone, the dad or anyone can use it. You just start and stop the contractions, and then it alerts us. And so in live time, we can see what the patterns are doing.
Cool. Well, that's brand new. Okay. And how do you help families prepare for the possibility of transfer to a hospital during a home birth? Or are there certain circumstances that you decide it's time to transfer to the hospital?
Yeah, so during a couple prenatals, we're talking about what transport looks like, reasons why we would transport, and how it would happen, just so that, transport's always a possibility with every birth. And so we want everyone to be educated and prepared ahead of time. Um, and so we're trying to, give that information, like just in case this is what all this looks like. And we're having lots of discussions about it. Um, During labor, we definitely prefer to transport not in an emergency. And so we're having those discussions during the labor if things are going, looking like they might go that direction. So one thing might look like, baby's heart tones are going down. And baby's heart tones can go down for lots of reasons. And they're not typically an emergency right away. And so once we're seeing those heart tones, then we're having a conversation with the whole birth team and saying, hey, these are the heart tones that we're seeing. We're not really sure what's going on, but here are some things we can try. How does everyone feel comfortable with trying these things for, let's say, 2 hours, and then reevaluating after that 2 hour mark and seeing, what's happening at that point.
Mhm.
And then if, we're still getting non-reassuring heart tones, then having the further conversation of, we, recommend transport and this is why, and let's do it before, you need a C-section, or, things are getting too out of hand. And making that decision, way, way before there's any kind of an emergency, is our ideal situation.
Okay. And then can you talk about the role of the father or partner during a home birth and how you support them in their role? My husband just made coffee for you guys, and that was about it.
Yeah, everyone's partner relationship looks different. And we kind of have that discussion over what they're willing to do versus what they're comfortable doing. Some partners step right in and they are like super doula and, doing the hip squeezes and very participatory, catch the baby, cut the cord, any involvement that the partner wants to have. they're more than willing to take on. We also have the complete end of the spectrum where the partner's like, I'm really don't want to be in here, and they're in the other room, and it's no big deal. And so yeah, there's no like expected role. It's really, what they feel most comfortable with. And we definitely have those conversations during the prenatals and educate of like, these are the potentials. And if your partner doesn't feel comfortable doing this, you might want to hire a doula. And this is what the doula would do. Or the doula would support the partner, and make this relationship, the three of you together, and just seeing like how that would all work.
Okay. Um, and how do you incorporate evidence-based care into your practice, and what resources do you use to stay current on the latest research?
Yeah, we love evidence-based care. Evidence-based birth is an amazing resource. She is a nurse and writes amazing blog posts and does updated podcasts all the time to help keep all of us current on the current statistics and the current medications and different things to use. We are also constantly checking in on ACOG, which is the American Academy of Gynecology, to see like, what's their current recommendation. We are all part of like the midwives organizations. There's one in California and one in the United States nationally that are constantly giving us, email updates and things of checking in to see what's, best practice. And then every year we have to complete coursework and show proof of that. And so we're constantly checking in, what's latest research, what's this, how are we changing, what are we doing differently? As well as quarterly, we meet with all the midwives and do a check-in that way as well.
Can you discuss any cultural or linguistic considerations to take into account when working with families from diverse backgrounds?
Midwifery is really unique in that way, because we are journeying with the family, during that 9 months. We are capable of tailoring our care to, whatever the needs of the family are. For example, like we had a Muslim family, and their needs, look a little bit different than in a home birth and in a hospital setting because we are a female practice. So it's like you're not going to get a male coming in that, you know, wouldn't be invited or wouldn't be part of the family, that type of thing. But we're definitely unique that we can tailor, our services and our birth to kind of whatever cultural experiences are needed. Um, Linguistically, I only speak English, unfortunately. But I have done a couple Spanish speaking only births, and we use Google Translate, and that has worked well. I've done a couple Russian births as well, where the family only spoke Russian. Um, so Google Translate has been amazing if we aren't able to find like a third party translator.
Wow, that's cool. Okay. And how do you work with families to capture and preserve memories of their birth experience through photography? Do you guys do photography, or do you have like recommendations on who they should work with?
We definitely give a list of birth photographer recommendations. If there isn't anyone there and both Glenn and I are not currently needed, we try to snap photos like as the birth is happening. Um, if we can. We can't promise that. But if everything's going smooth, then both of us try to whip out our phones and take some pictures. But would definitely encourage birth photography or, a family member.
Can you share any tips for families who are considering a home birth for their upcoming birth in terms of preparation and choosing the right provider?
I would definitely recommend interviewing all the midwives and figuring out, which midwife works best and feels most comfortable for you. I would also recommend watching birth videos like on YouTube or Instagram and just giving you a feel of like what home birth actually looks like. And researching into the differences in midwives. Not all midwives are licensed. And so looking into, what a licensed midwife does, what an unlicensed midwife does, um, why or why not, the benefits and risks of all of those together, just so that you're making the most informed decision.
And what are some common misconceptions about home birth that you would like to address?
I would say the most common misconception is that we don't hold a license and we have no training and we show up and just, catch a baby in the back of the woods and tie their umbilical cord with a shoestring. That's a common one that we get. Um, and so we are licensed by the medical board. We do go through extensive training. We have to take a ridiculous, hard, long 8-hour test. Um, and we have to keep renewing, our education to keep our license current. And so we do provide, you know, life-saving medication, life-saving skills, which is, what our service includes. Um, and it's not just some, oaky thing in the back of the woods um, that's not safe. Home birth is extremely safe when it's approached in an educated manner.
And how do you handle emergencies during a home birth?
Um, it depends on the emergency. Obviously, we are trained. That's why we're there. And so, we've got all of our equipment with us, all our medication with us. If at any point, whatever emergency is happening, we cannot safely contain it at home, then we are calling EMS and we're transporting to the hospital. We transport with you and handle the whatever the emergency is on our way, and then do a handoff to the hospital that way, and then continue as a support in whatever role that looks like.
And then, let's see, how, if at all, do you work with other healthcare providers like OBs, pediatricians, to ensure the best care for families?
We have a list of referrals. Unfortunately, the obstetric system in our valley doesn't really have a cooperative model to work with the midwives currently. There are other cities in the United States and California that have really great OB midwifery relationships. And we have been trying to bridge that gap here for quite a number of years, and the most OBs just aren't open to it. Um, we have a really great working relationship with CMRC downtown. They really love us, and that's our kind of go-to center. And we have, really great rapport there. And so that's kind of our go-to. And we do have quite a few pediatric referrals that love home birth and love us and welcome our clients.
Um, you kind of already talked about specific training qualifications that make you well suited. So there is a license that you have to get. Do all California midwives have to get that license to practice?
Um, yeah, so there are three different types of midwives. So you have a nurse midwife. So they are going through nursing school, then going to midwifery school, and then getting their license. Most nurse midwives work in a hospital setting and deliver in the hospital. There are a handful that do home birth, but it's very rare. And then you have the licensed midwife, which is what I am. And so we are not nurses. Our whole training is midwifery only. And so I am licensed to provide midwifery care to low risk vaginal birth. Like that's the scope.
Mhm.
Um, I can, run IVs, I can provide medication, but it has to be in the birth scope where a nurse can operate. They don't have to be, in birth, right? And then you've got the category of unlicensed midwives. So that group, they're not licensed. Some go to school, some don't. And they are not obtaining their license from the state of California. They're practicing on their own entity. These people, this group, couldn't access medication to be able to give you, during labor or postpartum if there was an emergency. And they are operating as their own entity.
Can you share experiences you've had with water birth and how it can benefit the mother and baby during labor and delivery?
Yes. So about half of our clients choose water birth. Um, and it creates an environment where your muscles are able to relax a little bit better during the contractions. And a relaxed body creates less pain. And so it's just kind of the symbiotic relationship of the more you can relax, then the less pain you're going to feel, and the more open you're going to have, and the easier birth. And so it kind of just keeps circling back and forth into that process. Um, and so it's a really amazing tool. I will say if you don't like taking baths or you really don't like, hot tubs or warm water, you're probably not going to want to birth in the tub.
Well, I love birth, love
Yeah.
baths and hot water, and it was fantastic during the time I was
Yeah.
able to do it. So I always
Yeah, I loved
recommend
it
it.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, can you share any examples of how you have supported families who have had a previous traumatic birth experience and how they were able to have a positive home birth experience?
Yeah, I would say about a third of our families come to us saying we're choosing home birth because we just did not like what happened the first time around. A lot of our families had cesarean sections, and in their opinion, was not for a good medical reason. They felt pushed into it. Um, and yeah, we've taken them and gone along on their journey, and they've had successful VBACs, successful home births, and we're able to get that kind of redemption feeling from the trauma that they experienced previously.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I remember when we first had a VBAC, we went and did a birthing from within class. So I always
Yeah.
recommend that to people
Hmm.
if they had a traumatic experience the first time. My husband said it was like therapy for pregnant women. So
Yeah. Yeah. Birthing from within is amazing.
yeah, so I always recommend that. So that's it for the question. So where can people connect with you and learn more about kind of what you offer?
Yeah, so our website, fresnobirth.com, or Instagram, Fresno Birth Midwifery. Those are kind of our two active places. You'll find my number and Glenna's number on all of that information as well. Reaching out via text is the easiest way to get a hold of us. Um, and yeah, we love to do consults, even if you're not pregnant. We do lots of fertility, period things. We also do well women visits and do pap smears and kind of help with hormonal health as well outside of pregnancy.
Great. And then I know that in Visalia, they currently have kind of like an OB crisis, right? There's not a whole lot of OBs. So you do prenatal care up to birth for people that aren't even planning home birth.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. If you, and we do that in our Visalia office as well as our Fresno office. So if you don't want a home birth, but you want midwifery care for your prenatals, we do offer that. And we also offer postpartum care. So we have free birthers and hospital birthers that are, not birthing with us, not doing prenatal care, and then using us for postpartum services too.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you so much, Lacey, for taking the time today to sit with me and answer all these questions.
You're
Um,
welcome.
have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Stop recording.